Gibson is taking its venerable SJ-200 Super Jumbo back to its roots with Rosewood. Today, we're going to compare it to the tried and true maple SJ-200, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you'd like to support the channel, you can visit our Spring Store link below for custom swag, check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, or just send Cooper and I large amounts of money. All of those things are on the table. So we've got, you don't seem too excited about that last part, maybe overwhelmed. We've got two Gibsons, talking about lots of money, to show you. So the SJ-200, the Super Jumbo, it's been in Gibson's lineup for decades. It's a very famous guitar. It's been on a lot of records, lots of hands of very famous musicians.
King of flat tops.
King of flat tops. And now they have a new version out that's Rosewood. Now, what's interesting is they've kind of done this before as a studio version. That's not what this is. This is actually really kind of a higher end version of the classic maple spruce J200.
Yeah, this is the, is it a standard?
It's a standard.
So if you, my favorite part about it is if you go on their website, it says SJ-200 Rosewood Burst.
Yes, it's the Roro.
And it's the Roro, but they put it in our system incorrectly at first. And it said Bosewood Burst, and that's even better. You know, the Bosewood.
They're made in Bozeman. They should call it Bosewood.
It's Bosewood. So. Yeah, so which one do you like more?
Wow. I don't know. It's a really tough question. I've been a fan of the classic for a long time. And by the way, I'm of the opinion, both having played this, looked at it for many, many years, and sold lots of them, this is the color you want to get. It's the classic sunburst. This is the one. And I just love the way that the burst is done with the maple. I like how it is on the neck, or it's a multi-piece neck. The flame shines through. It's a classic guitar. It's one of those where, honestly, given how I usually play guitar, it shouldn't be on my radar at all.
Yeah. But
I've always had a soft spot and always kind of wanted to have one in my collection.
That's one of those guitars that's kind of, I feel like, on everybody's list in the back of their heads. Like, you know, one day SJ-200, I would love to have one of those. I do think that it's always an interesting thing where most of the time, a lot of big old jumbos are maple.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting pairing. But right now, we're kind of living in a Rosewood jumbo renaissance with the reintroduction of the 815.
Mm-hmm.
We've got had some great Guild jumbos with Rosewood. And, of course, the Bosewood, this thing.
With the Rosewood Burst.
Also has a nice burst that I feel like plays into the coloration of the Rosewood a little bit better, you know. But first off, different flowers.
There's a lot of different things on these guitars. Yeah, the flowers are different. There's a number of aesthetic differences. And there's some very odd structural differences according to Gibson's website.
I just want to put a pin in this really quick because we were going to do this comparison last week. And in my mind, we've done videos on the SJ-200 before, so I was like, well, let's just do a solo one with the Rosewood. And then Chris was like, well, there's actual differences, so we should compare them. I had no idea about any of this stuff, so it's a learning experience for all.
Well, okay, so this is the weird part about it. It's also kind of in flux, all right? And here's what I mean by that. So preparing last week to try to shoot this video, I was comparing the specifications of each, going through every single thing. You know, I wouldn't want to say something has the wrong scale length, particularly on a Gibson guitar, for everybody out there in YouTube land. And so I wanted to make sure, here's what's different, here's what's changed. And there's a lot of weird, odd differences between these two guitars. One of the things last week that I caught was that one had a different scale length compared to the other. This week, that's not the case. This week, they're the exact same scale length, which really they should be, because the SJ-200 has always been 25.5-inch scale length. But there are other kind of strange differences. So the big difference, of course, it's still an SJ-200. It's still a giant guitar, big, super jumbo. That's a great description of it. And of course, this one has a Sitka spruce top, hand scalloped bracing, maple back and sides. It has a 3-piece maple neck, which again, I love it with the burst. That one is rosewood. It's got a 1-piece mahogany neck, still has a spruce top, still has hand scalloped bracing. The tuners are different. You might have noticed that. So this has Gotoh Kluson style. So that's been a change, by the way. I think they've typically used Grover, so they're Gotoh tuners, which I like. I love Gotohs. So gold with the kind of plastic knobs. These are Imperials. Grover Imperials. So that's definitely a choice. That's a decision. Actually, I like Imperials. I think they're cool. And on a big guitar like this, that works. If you tried that on anything smaller, just like it would look out of place.
Yeah.
So on the King of Flat Tops, you can go with the King of Tuners. It's gone from just being King to Emperor in this particular case. It is Imperial. So that's a big change. And then, of course, you pointed out the differences in the pick guard, which I think they've gone based upon an aesthetic choice due to the coloring of the tops. Mm-hmm. And then here's where it gets kind of weird and nerdy. And some of this you probably wouldn't notice, but the nut width is different by a fractional amount that probably doesn't matter at all. One is 1.725 and the other is 1.724.
I need that extra, dude.
That is odd to me. Now, this has always been a narrower nut. In fact, years ago, if you go back in this video, one of the things I effectively said about this neck is it was a lot like a Les Paul neck. It's a longer scale length, but it's the same nut width. It's the same kind of feel. It's the same radius, too. It's a 12-inch radius on these guitars as opposed to typically like a 15, 16-inch radius on most acoustic guitars. So you get kind of a really fast, thinner playing neck in both of these cases. So same thing over there, different by like tiny bits on the nut width, but the radius, the shape of the neck, all of that's the same. The pickups are different. So this has a Baggs VTC.
Is this an Anthem?
That's got an Anthem in it. And then the nut and the saddle are different. One of these guitars has a bone nut and saddle. One of these guitars has a tusk nut and saddle. Cooper, which one has the bone nut and saddle?
I think this one has bone.
Wrong.
No!
Incorrect.
I meant tusk.
So, yeah, the Maple SJ-200 has bone, nut, and saddle, and that has tusk, nut, and saddle, which, I always say all of these details matter. Wherever the string kind of makes contact, it makes a difference. Yeah. And all I can figure is that listening to the response of the guitar with bone and a pairing of maple, which is going to typically be characterized as brighter, but really just kind of a really flat response, versus the bright and bassy scooped mid-range of Rosewood, there's something going on with the materials that they liked tusk on that and they liked bone on this.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So peeling back to last week, you said, did they change the specs online to where the scale lengths are the same?
They did.
I have one comment that if you pick yours up and kind of put it side to side, I don't know if you can see this. I mean, I hope you can. Right under the saddle, there's this extra pearl right there, and it's not there.
Yeah, which actually means that the dimensions of the bridge vary slightly.
Yeah.
Because you can just look at where the position of the saddle is on the bridge versus where the position of the saddle is on that as well.
So I think that's interesting, and I'll add one more note about Gibson's website before we jump into...
Put that back up again? Because there was a point that I was trying to look at. Yeah, the binding's the same. So, and this is where it comes down weird with specifications. If you look at the Gibson website, this one lists the neck binding as multiply binding on the neck and the body and the headstock. And that one, it just says on the body. But it's also on the neck and the headstock. So, for what it's worth. Also, it says crown inlays on one and crowns on the other. But,
Well, that's my last thing.
The website's handmade.
Yeah. One of the, in Bozeman, one of the guys that works here the other day said, we got a guy, He's got a songwriter. He wants another Gibson. He wants the neck to be the same profile as the songwriter. Did he tell you about this?
No.
So we were talking about it, and Gibson neck profile's not my strong suit, right? And so I started going through, looking at what we have in stock, and then comparing spec sheets. And the profile of the neck on a songwriter is called rounded.
Yeah.
And then I went and looked at a different guitar that was kind of similar, and the profile said round. And I'm like, okay, is round and rounded different, or is it just whoever was working that day was like, nah, it's just round on the website? I have no idea. But then there's guitars that are like very, very similar that like it's just wood pairing or something that's different, and it's like rounded or slim taper.
Right.
It's just like, what's going on here?
Well, and I think that, I think there's a number of things at work. They probably lost an English major and have a different English major doing certain specifications on the pages. I don't know.
Oh my God.
This guy's like rounded is the right way and didn't go back and change the other pages. I don't know. Gibsons are also, I think, more so than the other two big companies, right? Like Taylor Martin. There's more handwork done in Bozeman on the guitars. And I'd love to see exactly how much CNC work's being done and so forth. But everything I've understood up to this point is that there's a lot of stuff still being done by hand. And so that's going to introduce a certain amount of variables. And you just, kind of like with Martin, you have so much history that there's sources that they can pull from of what they feel as they're designing a model works best for this particular guitar. And so it kind of comes down to, like we've talked about, if you compare Southern Jumbo to a J45, there's very small differences outside of the aesthetic choices, the neck being one of them, and you can really feel the difference. So, but in this, despite those small little nuance changes, the sound's going to be dramatically different. You've got two big guitars, you've got scooped mid-range, big present bass, not just from the Rosewood, but from the body itself, and nice high end on that. And then you have this, which everyone describes as bright, but I'm going to tell you is very even and player reflective. And so, check it out. So there you have it. A lot of small little nuance differences, big difference in sound between these two guitars. And at the onset, I said this is kind of returning the SJ-200 back to its roots. Historically, this is how it started, spruce and rosewood. Like a lot of the old models, when you look at like Banner, advanced Jumbos and whatnot, a lot of them started with rosewood, which is interesting since we've talked about mahogany's very, very spread throughout the line at Gibson. But that has been the combination for a long, long time. It's interesting to see this come back. It's definitely a different flavor. And the other part of it, probably to do with the upgraded tuners and the pickup, this costs a little bit more.
Which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great guitar. And I like the Studio Rosewood versions of all these guitars. I think that they're nice and they're good value, but I like, just like songwriters and all that, I like having a nice high-end Rosewood model available that's not cutting any corners to become like a more affordable kind of thing. I think it's a great guitar.
Between these two,
Maple.
You like the maple?
Yeah.
There's something about, again, maple's usually considered bright, which I don't like. I think it's a very even response wood. And so some people hear a lack of bass and go, well, it's bright. But I think it pairs really well. And the reason it's used on so many jumbos is because you've got that huge body. There's going to be a deep resonance just because of that. And so you kind of offset that with the inclusion of maple for the back and sides to even everything out.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to double down on the low end of things, you can do this.
Yeah.
You introduce Rosewood, you're going to get those overtones, and they're going to be increased because of the amount of resonance chamber that you have with the guitar this big. The other part with the guitar this big is you got to know what it's for. It's not for finger picking. Like, you can finger pick on it, but it's a big guitar. You got to get it going. It is going to give you a lot of volume,
it's
a lot of
strummer's delight.
It is a strummer's delight. Or if you're going to pick it, finger or otherwise, you got to kind of dig into it, and then it responds really well.
Yeah. Songwriter's dream, strummer's dream.
Elvis's dream. No.
Bonnie Raitt, Bob Dylan, everybody.
So you like the maple?
I like the maple. It's one of the few guitars that I'm like, I need the maple version.
Well, if you go with the maple version, it saves you about $400.
I mean, it's basically like they're paying me to take this guitar.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a deal.
And I really do. If you kind of look at the hardware, everything involved, the tuners and the pickup, I think just alone probably push it that way. So.
Yeah.
But there you have it. Each one of you is going to have an opinion on which guitar you liked in this comparison, and I'd like to hear in the comments your thoughts, both in how it sounds, which you prefer, and the other changes that they made. Do you think that they work? I kind of understand why I think maybe they went with bone over there, not over here, according to the specifications. But overall, very cool choices. Different strokes for different folks. So tell us what you think. If you're interested in either of these guitars or any other Gibson, you can go to our website and not buy it.
Yeah, you can view the photos on the website and make your decisions, and then you chat with us or text us or call us or email us or come in the store and tell us, that's the one that I want, and we can do it like that.
Yep, we can do it like that. I'm just going there. What's great about this, because this whole thing frustrates me. You can't hit add to cart and check out online, but you can message us and we can send you through messaging the invoice, and you can pay that way, and then we can ship it to you, which is just an extra step to do the exact same thing.
So you're going to want to subscribe.
Off my soapbox.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, we do want to get Gibsons to you. And I do want to say this isn't limited to just us. There are a lot of small independent dealers out there that carry Gibson guitars that would very much like to do a lot of business and are hamstrung in this way. So support your local music store. Support us in this venture. And if you like these guitars, make sure you reach out. Come in and try them. And if you like this kind of thing, you should, as you were saying.
Subscribe.
You should subscribe. Turn on notifications, like the videos, comment, share it with your friends.
Tell your friends.
Keep coming back for more. We'll see you next time.